902 Farmington Ave, we're all set?
Thank you, I'm attorney Matt Hubby. I represent, Mr. and Mrs. Dickinson related to this application. They're here with us tonight in the back of the room. And this is Sheldon Danley, the project's engineer.
Excuse me, is this talk closer to the microphone and make sure you push the button so it's lit up?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is a zoning application. The application is presently scheduled for a hearing for June 25th at 7 p.m. The subject property is comprised of, and let me back up, this is for 902 Farmington, which should be familiar to everyone in the township. It's one of the more prominent properties off the road here. The property is comprised of 17 parcels totaling approximately 12.59 acres. It is presently located in the LI Limited Industrial District. The township rezoned the property approximately about a year ago. The property is improved with several buildings and structures, including an office building, training center, garage, fuel island, and vehicle storage. There are also paved and stone areas throughout the middle and rear of the property. The perimeter of the property is fenced, with the majority of the fencing consisting of security fencing, and the rear of the property, which borders a residential neighborhood, is buffered by a white opaque privacy fence. The property is generally used as an automotive repair service and public transportation campus. I do want to note though that any work that's done on vehicles occurs within the shop, and the vehicles and equipment are just parked outside until they need to be used or repaired. And this is typically the case even if the vehicle's disabled, in which case it would usually be towed into the shop for maintenance. Overall, the property is used for three of Mr. Dickinson's businesses, PART, CMD Services, and D&D Automotive Repairs. Out of the campus, the Pottstown Public Transportation, or PART, operates, as well as school busing for the Pottstown and Pottsgrove school districts. For this particular project, everything's sort of being handled in reverse. During the pandemic, it was discovered that there were issues with the health of the trees in certain sections of the property. For environmental and safety reasons, Mr. Dickinson cleared the wooded areas in the property along Farmington Avenue and also the rear of the property. At a later point, the rear area was stoned, and that area totals about 3.41 acres in size. The stoned area is unlit and is being used to park overflow vehicles related to the businesses operating on the property. This area was originally created for the parking and servicing of vehicles that were owned by utility company and business deemed essential during the pandemic. Additionally, Mr. Dickinson constructed a white opaque privacy fence along the rear of the property line to buffer the parking area from the neighboring residential properties. This rear parking area is not open to the public or used for employee parking. Rather, as I said, it's strictly used for vehicle parking and storage before and after use and repair. In its current state, it is our opinion, it doesn't present a need for regulated drive lanes, wheel or bumper guards, or other improvements designed to facilitate vehicular and traffic flow and pedestrian safety, which are ordinarily required for parking areas. We did get a zoning review back from the zoning officer. Based on that review, as part of our application, we either appealed or requested variances from 5 sections of the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance has a bit of a peculiarity in that while most of the land development requirements for a parking lot are contained in the saldo, the zoning ordinance has a section that essentially incorporates the saldo into zoning. So if you're looking for any relief from the saldo, it's a 2-step process in this case. You're gonna need zoning relief from the zoning hearing board, and then potentially a waiver, from the planning commission and board of commissioners. As far as the variances they're requesting, they're all dimensional in nature. The use of the area as a parking lot is permitted under the LI district. Essentially though, the area that ended up being stoned and used as the parking area is a little bit bigger than was permitted and goes up to the property line. As far as the is requested. Generally it's related to setbacks and buffering. It's requesting that the SALDO requirements not be applied to this project, as well as the landscaping requirements, and these sections that are related to lighting, are inapplicable because there is no lighting up there. As far as the overall project, as I said, it is already completed at this point. The area that ended up being cleared and stoned was large enough to trigger certain permits and approvals that we're now working through that process. The chief of which was stormwater management through DEP. That is almost addressed to DEP satisfaction at this point. We're in the final stages of preparing the application for the NPDES permit, which Sheldon can discuss. But I do want to stress again that the zoning variance is strictly for the area of the parking lot, and it's not a land development application, which potentially is going to come before you at a later point in time as far as stormwater management. Likewise, there are no structures proposed. This is just a stone parking area that's currently used for overflow parking for vehicles that are being serviced. With that in mind, I'll turn it over to Sheldon, give an overview of the site and the project.
Thanks, Matthew. Again, for introductions, my name is Sheldon Danley. I'm with Mid-Atlantic Engineering Partners, and we are the civil engineers on the project. As Mr. Hovey mentioned, we're doing things a little bit reverse here, so we're kind of retroactively coming back here and trying to bring everything that was done into compliance with PADP stormwater rules and regulations, and making sure that that construction work is in compliance with erosion and sedimentation control rules and regulations. So we have had a pre-app meeting with PADEP, and we made our initial application for the NPDES permit, and we've received completeness comments through a completeness review process. So we're in the process of addressing those comments and making our resubmission. So that's where that process stands. From a design standpoint, the first thing we did was come out here and do soil testing. Pretty much every spot we tested on site showed shallow bedrock. So that limit our ability to do infiltration here. So we're using an alternative design standard called the managed release concept. It's a PADEP kind of published paper. Essentially though, we're creating a basin that is backfilled with a soil and sand mixture and compost mixture. It'll be fully planted on the bottom, and it will be under drained. The idea is all the runoff from the new stone area enters those basins, is forced through that soil medium, that sand medium, and will be under drained at a very slow release rate in your regular storms, and it provides peak rate control for your larger events as well. It provides water quality by filtering that water through that soil complex, and additional benefits through evaporation and transpiration by the plants, without getting too into the weeds, as engineers tend to do. So we're reducing peak rates, and we're meeting volume control requirements of the DEP through 2 basin locations. A little tough to see on the plan. This site has unique topography issues, so Mr. Dickinson obviously built the parking lot to the size that he thought was needed. We looked at putting basins in those areas, but ultimately, he needs all that land for the intended purpose. So what we're doing is tucking 2 basins into existing slopes on the site. They'll actually have retaining walls around 3 sides, which are kind of the horseshoes you see in the middle of the plan, and then they'll have an earthen berm on the downhill side. The lower one you're looking at, kind of right in the middle of the site there, is about 50 or 6,000 square feet, I believe, and the one to the north is about 5,500 square feet. The walls on the top one, the wall at the highest points will be about 9 feet tall, and on the southern one, the highest points will be about 14 feet tall for that retaining wall. So again, in addition to the DEP requirements, we did also design the stormwater to meet township requirements. The peak rate control requirements in the township are actually a little more strict than PADP. So we did design with that in mind, and we did submit plans and reports for A grading and stormwater permit as well. So those are under review. We've not seen the review comments to date. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, and again, we wanted to address the stormwater because that's everyone's primary concern, but again, the issue that's really before the planning commission, if I had to put it in its essence, is whether or not this parking lot, needs to meet the same standards as a parking lot for Lowe's or an employee parking lot, for a business, when this really is just sort of an overflow area that's tucked in to the rear of the property. So again, we're gonna ask the zoning hearing board to waive any requirement that the zoning ordinance imposed for, drive lanes, parking bumpers, landscaping, things like that.
So just so you know, the planning commission can't provide any approvals, we would just give our recommendation.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, if you were so inclined to, we would ask for you to authorize a letter of support, but again, we understand if you don't wanna take any position on the application.
Questions, anyone?
These basins aren't there now, correct?
That's correct.
So if they're 14 foot and 9 foot high, aren't you gonna need some kind of guard around them?
Yeah, they'll likely have, some kind of fencing, for fall protection there, I would imagine, split rail, without having discussed it with the owner. But yes, they would get some kind of fencing along the top.
Yeah, you need some better guards than split rail fencing with the buses and everything that's moved around up there.
Understood. I think Mr. Hovey mentioned that there's white, vinyl fencing along the parking lot area, so we could do something like that as well.
Yeah, and that would, I'm sure, be agreeable to the client, again, for safety reasons.
Where was the existing trees that you took down, that were taken down? In the back? I know in the front where they cleared the entire area in the front, but where was it in the back?
I have aerial photo exhibits if you want to.
Yeah, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
just because they're saying there's no landscaping there, I mean, we took out a whole lot of trees, I don't know if there's anything back.
Yeah, and part of that is because of the privacy fencing is shielding, that is the buffering that's shielding the whole view of the parking lot from the residential properties on the other side. And there is a 20 foot wide unopened street, that does buffer that rear parking lot from the properties. And I'll also add too, is
That's before.
That's after, so before.
and two, as far as the view from Farmington, DEP did require that, determine that the front lot there that was cleared is protected wetlands. And so I think several hundred trees have been planted down there to remediate that area. So eventually that foliage is gonna be full again, and it would basically screen the entire property, that section of the property from 902 Farmington, once it's mature.
And all that was done without permits?
And so that's the retroactive part of this is, and again, so the stormwater design goes from a pre-development condition that you're looking at on the right, so fully treed, all of that, to the post condition you see on the left, and the basins are designed as such, so, the basins are a little tough to see on that left exhibit there, but they, they're pretty sizable, and that's because of that change in cover type from the trees to the stone.
No, it's already done, that's the biggest thing.
And again, though, we're not here as far as the parking lot itself, because that is, permitted, will be part of land development. The zoning relief that's requested would really be the features of the parking lot.
Right.
So, should the property owner be required to put in bumper guards, drive lanes, those types of things. The parking lot itself is permitted, and that question's, not before the zoning hearing board.
Right. As you said, it's not being used for any kind of public use in any way, shape, or form. It's just flat out overflow, school bus storage from the looks of it. Customer parking as far as employees goes, but no customer, right?
Correct,
As far as-
and even the employees are not parking up there, it really is just
So
for
that really
overflow
is
buses.
just strictly overflow, waiting to be worked on, waiting to be fixed, repaired, pushed in, whatever.
Correct.
I mean, that's a big area for stuff waiting to get fixed, how would we know it's not gonna turn into like a junkyard?
Could you use the microphone? It's hard to hear you.
Sorry.
It just looks like an awfully big area for just waiting, cars waiting to be repaired. How do we know it doesn't turn into like a junkyard or a, without those things put in place? I mean, it's just a big open area that could end up being a parts yard. If it doesn't look like a parking lot.
I mean, I guess I would make the argument that even with bumper stops and striping and the things that Mr. Howie's mentioning, like that could still take place, I guess, technically.
Yeah, and again, the intent's not to turn it into a junkyard.
Now, you know what I mean, like that's, somebody's saying that is different than what happens down the road.
I think if you have a concern with that, you could, as part of whatever recommendation you come up with, you could put that concern in there, and then the commissioners will have their say on it, and that feedback all goes to the zoning hearing board. So, if that's one concern of, or if there's others, be my suggestion.
Sure, and I'd have to look at the ordinance, but I would be shocked if junkyards are permitted use in the LI. So whether the guards are there or not, they'll probably be in violation of the ordinance and subject to enforcement. If that stuff started accumulating up there.
Yeah. Somewhere in the-
So that's why I agree with Shell. I understand where you're coming from. I do a lot of zoning work. I get that. It also, if that's how the property owner was gonna use it, you know, bumper guards and, you know, striping isn't gonna stop them from just piling stuff up there. But I respect the concern.
Which probably is. Okay, alright, any other questions, gentlemen? Alright, if there's no questions, no anything else, if we would like to remain neutral on this position at this time? If I could,
I'll
if we
second
would,
that.
then a motion,
Yeah, I make a motion that we stay neutral.
okay, second. All in favor of staying neutral at this, on this position at this time? Say aye? Aye. Nay? None? We would like to just remain neutral at this time on this position.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just, point you and your consultant here, the stormwater comments, should be coming out within about a week. So, my suggestion is before you would resubmit to the Conservation District for your NPDS, I know they gave you some comments, we
Yeah.
need to have our comments in front of you too, so that way you make kind of one, hopefully one change of the plan, so to speak, or know where you're headed before you resubmit to them, just a suggestion, but,
Yeah.
in about a week or so. But with Mark out, we're running a little behind, but we'll get